What happens to us after we die? Do we just go into dust and then that is it for our existence and there's nothing wait us on the other side? Or do we actually have this thing called a soul that gives us purpose, that gives us a sense of identity, that gives us a sense of value? And once we leave, the soul leaves the body and goes back to its creator. Because if we say that there's a soul, then there's something that created the soul. That it inadvertently implies that there is a creator. Or there's nothing that waits for us on the other side. But Arnold Schwarzenegger says, what? Let's get into it. Arnold Schwarzenegger says he doesn't feel comfortable with death. I will miss everything. Right? And I wanted to get into this topic because I think this is something that will sober us. So let's go ahead and get into it. Arnold Schwarzenegger is giving his own meaning to heaven and death. The 75-year-old actor again approached the topic after being asked by Danny DeVito, what's in the future for us, during an in-depth conversation for Interview magazine. All right, let's go down real quick. And this is where it starts getting spicy. It reminds me of Howard Stern's question to me. Here it goes. Tell me, Governor, what happens to us when we die? Right? And then he goes and says this. I said nothing. You're 6 feet under. Anyone that tells you something else is an effing liar. Sheesh. If we have any other theories outside of the fact that nothing else happens to us when we die, we're liars. To me, this sounds like a man that lacks hope. This is a man that lacks any faith in anything else outside of what he sees around him, which is the carnal or carnality of man and animal and etc. Anything else, it doesn't exist, right? But listen, I find it interesting because guess what he says after this? I said we don't know what happens with the soul and all this spiritual stuff that I am not an expert in. But I know that the body as we see each other now, we will never see each other again like that. I found that very interesting. And my bad if you cannot see as well. I'm going to bring this up a little bit for y'all. But I find that interesting when he says, I don't know what happens to the soul and all that spiritual stuff. But out the same mouth, you go and say that anything else that happens outside of nothingness is a lie, right? But he finds himself wrestling with the comfortability of death. Now, naturally, we do not want to die. It is built in our DNA to try to preserve ourselves, all right? But we as believers have hope that once we leave here, to be absent from the flesh is to be present with God, right? But from a person that doesn't have anything to hope in after death, it is just, for what we see it now, that is it. How we got here, I don't know. All this intricate design, it doesn't matter, right? But at the same time, I would also argue, guys, if we believe that there is nothing waiting for us on the end, if we believe that we just got here out of mere luck, sheer luck, and everything around us was created out of nothingness, which defies science in itself, then there is no true meaning to life. So anything on this earth is subjective. How we live our lives is subjective. How we view the value of a human life is subjective, because the reality is, if there's nothing after death, and we don't become in contact with our Creator again, then in reality, we should live our lives according to what we deem is right. I shouldn't be told by the government how I should live. I shouldn't be told by my mom and dad how I shouldn't treat somebody this way, because what makes your way right? because we don't have an objective truth. So if there's nothing after death and nothing has created you, then everything around us is subjective and is up for debate. And then people say, well, that's not true. It says it should be work out for the best of common man. No. Just like Jeffrey Dahmer, he said, because I didn't believe in a God, I lived that out logically to its logical conclusion. And a lot of times we start becoming inconsistent with how we live because we start saying, no, we shouldn't treat people this way. Why? Because it's not right. Who said it ain't right? And then we keep going down, but no, live this out to its logical conclusion. The reason why we give dignity to human life is because we believe there's value to it. And because we believe there's value to it, then we know that we shouldn't treat it any kind of way. But where does the value come from? It becomes from its rarity, like gold, right? Just like diamonds. It's rare and it's hard to obtain. So the rarity, so that means that the desire is high, but the actual product cannot meet its desire because everybody wants gold. But guess what? It's hard to obtain. The same with life. We understand that once it's lost, it's lost. You cannot get it back. It's valuable. But what makes it valuable is so unique. What makes a human's life more valuable than an animal? Just a regular animal. So this is where we have to be really think our things through, right? So let's keep reading, right? It says, while the former bodybuilder added that death is a topic he feels uncomfortable with, he shared that heaven is in his mind and it is a fantasy. When people talk about, I will see them again in heaven, it sounds so good. But the reality is that we won't see each other again after we are gone. That is the sad part. I know people feel comfortable with death, but I don't. I wouldn't either, my guy. I would not feel comfortable with death when I know there's nothingness. Right? But to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, with me, I would be the actual opposite. I think I still would be comfortable with death if I know I'm living if there's nothing waiting for me on the end, bro, I would do whatever I want, how I want it, when I want it. So that when I leave, I'm comfortable and content with myself that I've done everything I got out. I did everything that I wanted to do. But at the same time, I will be wrestling with the problem is I don't know when that time is going to happen. And the problem is that's what's going to make it uncomfortable for me. So there's no escaping it, right? But, and this is what I'll argue too, and we can finish it out later, like this article real quick later, but I want to bring this proposal to those who are not believers. If you're right and there's nothing waiting for us on the other side, I don't lose nothing. I don't lose anything. I can be pitied. I can be like, oh, he lived his life for Christ. But the reality is I still won't regret it because I lived out principles that actually brought good fruit to my life. But if you're wrong, you have everything to lose. You have everything to lose because you didn't submit yourself to your Creator and you didn't submit yourself to Christ. You have everything to lose. Let's say I chose the wrong God. I chose Jesus, but I didn't choose Allah, and I didn't become a Muslim. I still don't have nothing to lose. Why? Because reality, I'm measured by my works. I'm actively a person who gives to my community. I'm serving my local church. I'm working hard to be a great husband. I'm working hard to be a great father. I'm working hard to be a good father, a brother, a son. So I'm still doing good works so that I can hopefully obtain the favor of Allah. But if they're wrong and they didn't put their faith in Christ, you have everything to lose. And this last part of the article. To me, heaven is where I put a person who I love dearly, who is kind, who is generous. Again, he's coming up with these qualities, but who deems these qualities the optimal way of behavior? Right? You're pulling morality from something. And where are you pulling your morality? Is it yourself? Because that's why laws change over and over again. And we pull back the veil little by little because it's subjective to man. 1 minute is good, next minute is bad. Next thing is bad, next thing is good. All right, let's keep going. I keep them in a spot in my head like that front row that you have of all of your friends, and you always have a good feeling when you think of them. And this is sad, man. I pray that Arnold finds Jesus before his time is done. And I wouldn't feel comfortable with death if I was in his shoes, because he's uncomfortable because, yes, he's going to miss everything when he's fading away. But he's also nervous because he's not fully sure if he's right about his conclusion about death. Because I know, and us believers know, there is a creator waiting for him. It's just a matter of whether he's going to choose to submit his ways to him and put his faith in Jesus. So y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Hey, like, share, subscribe. But until next time, grace and peace.